We're now going to have a go at georeferencing this plan of the Abu Rawash area. This is Plan 1 from Porter and Moss's Topographical Bibliography, Volume 3.1. And as you can see, it shows a map of the archaeological features in the area of the Pyramid of Abu Rawash. Now, so the pyramid looks quite a lot like it did in the drawing. You can see the T-shaped trench, the outline of the pyramid, the mortuary temple over here, some of the enclosure walls. But unfortunately the rest of the area has been changed quite a lot. You've got a lot of quarrying, there's what looks like a new cemetery going in, there's development of farming and fruit, looks over there, more development in this valley down here, additional housing coming in here. This is the village of Abu Rawash, this is the historic village. So the landscape looks somewhat different to how it did in that original sketch plan. So now we need to try and fit this to display. So this is 6,000, that's like 6,500. So we know the pyramid was in it and we know these areas over here were in it. Let's just shuffle slightly to the left. So if we press fit to display, this map here should appear on the screen, and lo and behold it does. Now we're going to have a quick look about how, so that's Cemetery F, you can see there are all these mastabas over here. Cemetery M is on this ridge, Cemetery H is down here somewhere. We've got the village. Now, right, so if we put the pyramid down here, well, that's a bit problematic. That's clearly not big enough. If we put that over there, the pyramid, and the pyramid looks far too big. So this is already telling me that it looks like this area over here, and possibly this area, have been drawn at a different scale to the pyramid. So the pyramid looks like it should be really quite a lot smaller, but if we make it a lot smaller, so let's go to, let's say 4,000, whoops, that's 400, add another 0. Better. Pan the map back to the pyramid. Let's try fit to display. Now we move this image over the pyramid. We can see that looks quite good. So the pyramid scale is probably something quite a lot like 1 to 4,000 on this map. But if you do that, you can see that the village of Abu Rawash is here, which it absolutely isn't, and Cemetery F should be up here where these mastabas are, if you see the mastabas over here. So it's very clear that there's a failure of consistency in the scale behind this map. So what we're going to do is we're going to georeference the rest of the map and we're going to ignore the pyramid. And if we do that, it's clear that something closer to perhaps 8,000 might actually work. Right, so let's have a look. If we pull this back, right, so that sort of fits Cemetery F up there. Cemetery M is in approximately the right place. It might be a little bit out, but it's a lot closer than the 4,000 that the pyramid was at. So you can see the pyramid's huge now. So very clearly that should be ignored. Now, the other thing we need to do is determine where this northwest cemetery is. Just going to pop that off now and zoom in. So you can see that over here we have quite a few pockmarks. That looks very much like an archaeological feature to me, and so do those. If we just pop over to Google Earth, very useful, we can see there's very clearly four holes there, and that is the square trench. So I think it's probably accurate to say that we're looking for this area is going to be the area where the Wadi cemetery is, this cemetery up here. Oops. Yeah, so we probably want that to be somewhere around here. Right. Yeah. So maybe like that. Okay. Now, what this also indicates is that we need to rotate the map. So we should do that first. Also, the north arrow is pointing sort of north-northeast. North arrows are not always absolute. Sometimes people have sort of local north that might well be aligned to the Nile in Egypt. and sometimes they're off by a few degrees. You can't always trust that the north arrow is going to point to exactly north, so it's worth being aware of that. But here it looks like we do need to rotate a bit, so we've just changed to rotate and rotating. And let's leave it at that and just shift this upwards. So put cemetery F back. So now that's a little bit too far out there, and also cemetery M is a little bit too far down. I'm going to just rotate a little bit more and see if that... Alright, I think what this is indicating to me is that we also need to reduce the scale a bit. So let's go to 7,500. One of the other things that happens when you rotate is that the angles of the map or the images of the image compared to the angles of your data frame change, and that can change the scaling quite dramatically. So you can see that we've now got a very much too small map. The Northwest Cemetery is over here instead of being down here. So let's go back to 8,000 and see how that works with our now rotated map. Okay, so that's still a bit wrong. Let's try 9,000. Okay, that's getting a lot closer, it has to be said. I need a little more of a rotation. Oh, I think that's probably good enough. Yeah, still a bit off. See, now what I think is interesting about this is that sometimes these maps are also the wrong dimensions in one plane or another. So sometimes they've been squished to fit the page and they're too wide, and sometimes they've been squished to fit the page vertically and they're too short. And that's something you have to watch out for. And there's not a lot you can really do about that. The only thing you can really do about it is use the control points to adjust it. So if we go down in over here, we've got cemetery H, and tomb 9 is clearly a tomb there. Now, I don't know about you, but I think tomb 9 is probably that there. So if I put that there, it's looking quite good, isn't it? Now, let's have a look at cemetery F. Now, I've already georeferenced cemetery F. So it looks to me like this probably needs to move down just a touch. That's good. That looks quite accurate now. But cemetery M is now too far over. But before I do anything with cemetery M, I need to stick a pin on the other side of my map. Ooh, that's quite interesting. So have you seen how this is now switched around? So it's actually really not far from where I think. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to pin that corner of that tomb to that corner of that tomb. Now, a word about zooming in when you're doing this. It is possible to zoom in too far. This is a satellite image. It has a resolution of probably no more than 50 centimeters. And you can see when you start to zoom right in, you get a very blurry image, and it's actually quite difficult to tell where you should stick the point. It's much easier for your brain to interpret the image when you're slightly further out. So I'm going to put that there. Now, that is a slightly approximate point because I don't have this exact shape here, right? But it's good enough, and we have to remember this is quite a large map, so we're expecting a certain amount of error in it. Now, here, I am just going to pop this point on the nearest one, which is that one there. Now you see I'm actually quite zoomed out, but if I zoom in a little bit and allow the map to regenerate and just turn this off, you could see there's one there that's quite kind of okay. There we go. It's not too desperate. Okay. You can see again how far off the pyramid is. I mean, it's really... Right. Now, looking at the bottom of this map, we almost certainly need to put a point in to pull Cemetery M back, because Cemetery M, if we turn Cemetery M on, its bottom should be there. So if we go like that, that's not bad. That's quite acceptable in many respects. Okay, so we've got a mismatch of 11. Now 2 is the furthest off, which is quite interesting. But actually, if we just turn off 2, 2 helped us to pull this in. But if we just turn off 2, our RMSE comes down, and that barely moves. So it barely moves, and it still encompasses those mastabas. So that's the thing. You can put a point in. It can help you to put further points in, but you don't have to keep it. If you now, we've got quite a good RMSE of 3.87. That's actually pretty acceptable for a map of this type, particularly in an area like this where you're going to have a lot of disruption and a lot of damage from all of this quarrying that is making it very difficult to identify the actual archaeological features and parts of the landscape anymore. But this is the best sense I can make of this map. I've tried several times now to georeference it, and this is the most sense I can make of it, with the Northwest Cemetery up here, these features over here, and the pyramid just being a completely inaccurate scale for the rest of this map. So again, we're going to ignore that pyramid down there. Once you've got your control points in places you're relatively happy with them, you can rectify your map. So you go up here to rectify. Okay, check the location of the map. Yeah, it's in georeference, see, 3A. Check the name. I'm going to call this Map 1 Abu Rawash Overview. And it's not that, it's page 3687. 367A. Okay, and then we're going to press save. So now we go to add map. Add the map, and you can see it turns up. You can see the little points on top of it. Very good. If we then remove that map that we georeferenced it from, the control points vanish, and we just have the georeferenced map. Oh, we've got it twice now. Let's remove that one. And you're done. It's all georeferenced.